Hello, good afternoon to all. Welcome to this series of seminar. Today's our topic is Crisis Create Opportunities, Changes under Pandemic. When we look at this PPT, you may find that although it is a globalized situation, yet it can become localized into individual places, such as individual macro management. In this program, we will be looking at more or less onto individual CEO, in the view of CEO, how they will look at the things together, how the CEO will forecast the crisis and transform the crisis into opportunities. You will be divided into three different areas to share about this program. Firstly, it will be talking about very simple sales administration principle, what we call it three major principles that into who we are becoming, achieving this task. And such a sales principle will be, you are the same, you are better, and you are the only one. Through these three steps, under this program, we will be covering how we look at the risk occurred during the COVID-19, what kind of risk occurred. Secondly, how our attitudes towards this risk. Finally, how can we solve the risk? So therefore, in this program, we will look at you are the same, you are better, and you are the only one. Firstly, I would like to introduce myself to you. Now, about myself, Markus. Before telling something about myself, firstly, I have to introduce the hosting entity is FTMS. FTMS occurred 30 years accounting training in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia. Over the region, it covered up more than 30,000 CPAs candidates in the histories. And through their histories of QP training, a lot of their alumni have already become CFO and financial director. And next will be the VNHK, which is the link between Vietnam and Hong Kong. Finally, is myself, Markus. I'm running a program called Interim CEO. My vision is, vision without action is an illusion. That means without any action, I cannot claim myself as an interim CEO. Over 30 years of experience, where there are more than 25 years managerial and directorial experience in banking and finance and education and training. The theme of myself have already said, vision without action is an illusion. Being an expert in financial world, I try to transform myself into interim CEO. Through my experience, I have been helping 5 fintech or crypto companies to transform their books from red, which is net loss, into blue, in other words, running profits nowadays. So my solid experience of helping companies to transform themselves from net loss into net profit through my interim CEO program. Now, go into the topic of today. When you look at the PPT of this page, usually we will receive a lot of information about COVID-19. Just like the one on the PPT, you may find that it is the statistic from the end of April, which I received it last week. When I look at it, immediately my brain was flashing a lot of questions. But this kind of question is not only about how many cases being occurred, how to face the situation, but on the other hand, being a CEO, my boss, what will my boss, which is the fund manager or shareholder, will ask me? So when I look at the figures, I found that the increase in cases have been marginally, additionally increased at a reducing rate. In other words, I will ask, when I look at these figures, I will ask, what next? How can I run the book? As you know, in less than 6 weeks, there will be a period of at the end of June. For many CEO will know that June is the time to prepare the half-year report. At this moment, when we are preparing the half-year report, we are thinking about fund managers, shareholders, how would they ask me the questions? A lot of fund managers or shareholders, please excuse me, I use a term, it's a kind of short-term memory animals. Please excuse me, I use this term, calling them as a short-term memory animals, because they will only ask the CEO or myself, Markus, how could you do the half-year report like this? Where is my cream? Then they will ask, Markus, what is your year-end budget? What is your year-end profit targeting? They will ask me these questions. Also, when you look at the chart, you may find traditionally in the financial market, VIX means Vitality Index. The Vitality Index shows us that in every around 10 to 12 years, the financial market will be fluctuate very significantly. The last moment was around 2008. You should remember, you can recall what's happened in 2008 and 2009 about the financial bonds crisis and also sovereign crisis in Europe. And such occurred. But on the other hand, after that significant vitality occurred, when you look at the chart, immediately the risk will be fallen. And over the 10 years, we can say at a very, very creamy level. That means easy to take profit. Why I raise this question? When we look at the COVID-19, now it's dropped back to around 30 to 40. In other words, it will slowly get back to 10 to 20 level. That is a very, very profitable level as a CEO, in the view of CEO. So when I look at this picture or chart, when you look at this picture or chart, again, as a CEO, I will be thinking about my boss, which is the fund manager or shareholder. They are a kind of cunning animals. When I'm preparing the half-year end, they always indicate their expectation about my half-year report. They will indicate through some wording like, Markus, tell me, what is your profit budget by this year end? How many dividends can I get? How much bonus do you want by the end of this year? So, please excuse me, I proclaim fund manager or shareholder is a kind of cunning animals. They have short memory, that they have forgotten what had happened the last quarter of last year or this quarter about the coronavirus occurred in Hong Kong. But they will ask me in 3 months' time or in 2 weeks' time, they will ask me, what is the half-year result? What is the year-end result? So that is what I'm expecting, or what they are indicating to me that they would like me to report. Next, the risk factor. The next factor is long-term implication about extended work from home. Now, when you look at the question 1, nowadays, a lot of people are working at home. For a CEO, there will be a lot of indication. Firstly, one thing. Firstly, if I cannot run the net profit good enough, then I will have to think about how to beautify the return on equity through transforming return on asset. If nowadays there are a lot of people can work at home and they can achieve my sales target, or when they work at home, they can achieve my KPI in operational management. In other words, I have to rethink about it. Does it need to have so many premises to serve all the staff at the office place? Can they work at home and achieve the sales target? Can they work at home to achieve the operation target? Can they work at home to achieve financial KPI? Why I need to do it? Because I can prospect that in 6 months' time, when I prepare the annual report, the sales volume cannot be improved so as quick. But a lot of people expecting my net profit or profitability can be improved. How can I transform the figures? Then I maybe think twice about whether I need to reduce my asset or not. So the question one is, one, when the people do not need to go to office 5 days a week, what will that be crashing? Second question is, since it is working at home, in other words, that means there will be a lot of people expecting the job hierarchy getting flattening. In other words, cutting the middle management so that more professional management can outreach with the senior high. Secondly is the shift about the work process and documentation. Now, whether the paperwork needs so many, whether it can be save the world, save the environment, to use more onto digital documentation, smart contract, and then reduction on external auditing work through blockchain technology, so that everything can be digitalized, or some people call put everything on the cloud. Finally, changing the patterns of talent. Later on, I will share about some experience from the CEO. They proclaimed that before the event of coronavirus, before the event of working at home, a lot of CEO have not put their attention onto Generation Z, that group of salespeople. But afterward, after the occurred of coronavirus, after the occurred working at home, those Generation Z sales can achieve their sales target better than they work in the office. What does it mean? What does it mean for us? Whether we have been using the wrong way to have the talent development onto the Generation Z, even the post millennium generations. So the point 4 is impact about the HRM. The point 1 will be ROA. The point 2 is the hierarchy of system. The point 3 is about the digitalization of the documentations. Risk factor next is about, very significantly, after the Chinese New Year, a lot of people recognize this risk, which is supply chain management risk. Especially when you look at the left-hand side about the immune deficiency about the manufacturing goods. When we look at it is, whenever the level of buffer onto the inventory, the supply of days is low, and then less alternative sources will be very high risk because of the supply chain management. Now, when you look at it, previously, when we monopolize the market, we can get the best or the thickest cream. But at this moment, when you look at it, if it is monopolized by the high technology, there will be the high risk of loss of the market. How can we manage the supply chain management? How can we reduce the risk of supply chain chain risk? The picture next to the manufacturing risk chart is called 4 phases of COVID supply chain response. Now, we can imagine about the supply chain in Hong Kong or in other places. In the first quarter, the supply chains was horrible. In the first quarter of 2020 was horrible. A lot of people queuing up to buy rices, to buy toilet paper, rose paper, and all sorts of food because of they are worried about the lockdown, they are worried about the supply chain, and they are worried about what next if prolonged lockup. But afterward, just like April, the situation getting resilience, and then people recognize that actually everything is still okay, even though there are some leaking onto the supplying days, but still the things can get up. Now that is the risk. How to calculate from reaction, resilience, and then rebound. When we look at this one, we must think about what is our goods. For example, if we are the trading firm, we are thinking about how can I have my shipment being supplied from overseas? How can I have my shipment to my client? All sorts of supply chain, customer change management. Of course, one of the examples I raise out is, other than supply chain management, raises about the risk onto COVID-19. But actually, as a corporate, as a CEO, we are not only looking at the supply chain. We are looking at when the risk occurred, how can we monitor the situation? How can we set up the committee to solve the risk occurring? Once when we set up this committee, who are the key leadership within the committee? Who can communicate with all levels of stakeholders? The majority, a lot of people will look at how can we communicate with our clients. So when we look at the situation at this moment, is being a CEO, facing the risk, how can we handle the risk? How can we, when the COVID occurred, how can we handle or how can we manage the crisis? Who can make the quick response onto the crisis? Otherwise, you will look like the slide next page. When we look at this slide, when we think about the COVID-19, when we think about the financial crisis being occurred, whether our past 10 years, all the while, whether it been built up onto single pie or not, whether we have been diversified our portfolio or not, if it is a single pie like this chart, it can be very easily being locked down by one crisis. But on the other hand, if we can have a basket of portfolio, if we have a basket of client, if we have a basket of supply channel, or we can have a basket of supply goods of services, then it will be less effective to lock down everything by one stroke. Okay, now we recognize there is the risk factor. Now, before talking about how to handle, Now we look at what situation to look at the environmental background about whole occurring about the COVID-19. Yes, we have already talking about a lot of supply chain, corporate change, transformation. But one thing is, if we do not know where we are at this moment, we cannot handle the situation. Now, when we are looking at the phases, starting when the crisis occurred, our economic demand will be declined significantly because of lack of information, because of lack of confidence. But when the situation getting smoother, when the situation getting clear, when the situation being acknowledged, yes, the economic demand still reducing, but the reducing rate is marginally decreasing. In other words, it will be increased in a decreasing growth rate. Thirdly, when people getting know the situation, when the people getting enough protections, when the people getting know that the government is doing something, when the people getting to know that, yes, the professional is knowing how to handle, is preparing for the pre-vaccine stage, then the confidence slowly founded that if we at this moment, the latest, if at this moment, being a CEO, if we do not change ourselves to adapt the new market demand, then we will lost what I mean is we will lose the next high growth economic situation. When everything is prepared, when everything is welcomed by the professional, by the medical solutions, the market economic demand will be rebound back. When the such rebound back, we do not have the most modern, the most satisfied product or service to draw the market. We will lose the high growth situation. Next, yes, during this risk of COVID-19, a lot of CEO can be collectively saying they have two actions towards or two attitudes towards the examination of crisis. One, yes, I want to survive, so I have to adapt into the new environment. I have to adapt the situation. Adapt. In other words, my transformation is good enough for me to survive. So little fundamental to change. Little structure shift to digital because of work at home still need to have some kind of digital situations to help my staff. Next is myself do not have confidence. I just want myself to be survive. In other words, I lost my confidence to grow. Finally, all my peers will feel that my attitude, my associate will getting say, oh gosh, no hope for the future growth. The organization recession impact will set seed and grow inside the organization. Next will be the attitude about acceleration. About acceleration, what does it mean by acceleration? That means not only accept the situation, but also I will participate the growth. Not only participate, I will need the situation to go. So at this moment, we have to think about how can we accelerate ourselves into the new environment. Accelerate attitude is I firstly to look at the situation on site to think about what are the crisis mean to me. We use critical thinking about what is my opportunity on hand. is there any flexibility to change? Flexibility to change into the new economy, the new fashion, into the new demand. Finally, semi-finally is, in order to accelerate, my attitude is whether I need to transform my company into a virtual organization chart. In other words, nowadays in US or in UK, there is so-called virtual internship, virtual manager, virtual director, virtual employability. But in Asia, even Singapore or Hong Kong, rarely people talk about the employment criteria about virtual internship, virtual officer, virtual marketing development, virtual employment opportunities. Because many do not want change. If you participate into the accelerating stage, we will think about what is the, now we are stepping onto 5G mobility technology. If we only adapt 5G technology, we are only adapt. We are not participate onto the new environment. But on the other hand, if we would like to accelerate, we will not satisfy to know or transform our company into 5G mobile technology. But we need to think about more about virtualization through participating the development about the R&D about 6G technology. If we participate in, that means we are having our organization structure being prepared for the 6G technology. So that is the virtual, the important about virtual, starting from HR management. How can we have the employment opportunity into virtual opportunity? Now, we are talking about a lot of things about risk factor, risk occurrence since the COVID. And then we understand about what our situation at this moment. So a lot of us, because of the work at home, work from home, and work through home, then we will be rethinking about our organization chart. We will be reimagine how can we getting forward into not satisfied only about the participating 5G technology, but reinvent our organization structure into 6G structure. If we do so, we are disrupting the traditional business. We are disrupting about the traditional market. All from the risk factor, risk situation, where we are, and now disrupt. All process, we are thinking about what is, how can we use the design thinking methodology to think, to design our corporate to participate the crisis. Well, I cannot call crisis now because we are more or less participating or preparing for the post-crisis market. When we are thinking about design thinking about our business, if we use design thinking technology or design thinking philosophy to prepare our organization, to transform organization, firstly, when you look at the chart here, there is a typical 5 point onto the design thinking, or how can we execute the design thinking. Firstly, empathy. Now, I would call it instead of empathy is you are the same stage. When we recognize the situation, when we are the same, then we can define the situation. Then we would like to change. That means we will be ideate through you are better. When we know how to become you are better, then you will become you will be having some protocol, and then you want to test. Once the test is complete and success, then you are the only one. So if you use the sales 70 in 1970s, a lot of sales people have these three principles called you are the same, you are the better, and you are the only one. In order to one-time closing with the client, going through this, you are the same, you are better, and you are the only one. More illustrate about my using all theories about you are the same, you are better, and you are the only one into the COVID-19. Now, when a lot of CEOs or business owners facing the current situation, firstly, they will be very scared about the situation. They do not know what to do. Everything being locked up, everything being shut down. They are fear. On the other hand, we are also fear. But we are not only satisfied about my own fear, we will be empathy about others' fear. We will be participate with other industries' fear. And then we slowly transform ourselves into you are better. Because we are learning from others. We are learning from others less fear. Why they are less fear? Why they are better than me? Why? Upon understanding our peers, our friends, why they are better, why they are less fear, upon we have learned, we are trying to transform ourselves into you are the only one, because we can grow by ourselves. So going through this process, we can transform oneself into a better place. But more importantly, when you look at the PPT slides, right-hand corner, there is an old saying from very respected people. Sir Churchill, he has said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Similarly, Sir Churchill has said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Similarly, in Chinese terms, we have the similar items calling. Wherever there is the crisis, there is the opportunities. Everything that's similar, no matter west or east, we are how to transform oneself, adapt into the situation, and then transform myself into a better place. That is the meaning of to never let a good crisis go to waste. The first step, you are the same. Look at the picture. Who lead the digital transformation of your company? Whether it is CEO, the owner, whether it is CTO? No, at this moment. Everybody knows it's the COVID-19. Who can push? Who can push everybody work at home? Who can push everybody to use Zoom to do the video conferencing? Who can push everybody, even the school, having their lessons online? Traditionally, a lot of teachers saying that if there is no classroom, if there is no interaction between people physically, I do not know how to teach. Teach, the meaning of teach is to acknowledge the people physically. But now, at this moment, the COVID-19 push everybody go digital. Such a crisis help us to transform ourselves into digital. So if we find we are the same situation, we will think about what next for us. If we are the CEO, we think, if we are the CEO, if we acknowledge that at this moment, the company being transformation, being from traditional business transform into digital business. Now is a good moment. Transform yourself, transform your company organization from physical into digital in some sense. But on the other hand, a lot of people saying that nowadays the COVID not only bringing the opportunities of transformation, but also bringing a lot of crises, such as financial crisis about the liquidity, capital problems about the capital market. A lot of people worry about the healthiness problem and making their cash flow into big problem. A lot of people being unemployed because of the business lockdown. And we can find that across the countries, the easy way for the government to help the business, to help the people is going through the money supply policy, supply side policy to transform. But on the other hand, because of the supply policy, that means the multiple effect will bring supply side threat occur among the people. If we're only doing the one side supply chain policy, supply side management skills, if we are pushing too much, the return will be a threat. Then we need to think about what are the demand side we can do. But when we think about demand side, we have to not acknowledge that by 2025, more than 40% of retail sales are being influenced by Generation Z, not to mention post-millennium generation, but only Generation Z and Generation Alpha is already occupied the retail sales 40% by 2025. Have we transformed ourselves to satisfy or to grab the market of Generation Z and Generation Alpha? If we include the generation of post-millennium, by 2025, more than 60% of the market demand, of the market trend being led by the young generation. Oh, yes, by the young generation. How can we collectively can understand what they want? That is how we manage the demand. On the other hand, when I said about post-millennium age or the Generation Z demand and the Generation Alpha, especially when we're talking about the Generation Z, they are a kind of new employment requirement. They are a kind of looking a new culture of employment. Similarly, as they are growing, as they are influencing the post-millennium age young people, the gig, the gig economy are growing among us. We have to acknowledge the HR requirement or the HR supply will be changing within these 5 years due to the occur of COVID-19. We can quickly to adapt into gig workers. For example, like this slide, you may be surprised that in UK or Great Britain, there will be estimated around at this moment 1.1 million people can be qualified called gig workers. Gig workers. What does it mean by gig workers? Next, as I told you, that by 2025, if included post-millennium generation, there will be 60% of market demand are looking at electronic economy. They are looking at the digital economy. They are looking at further called virtual economy. Combine all what we call it as gig economy. It is the age after the COVID-19. After the COVID-19, we have to recognize that it is the age of rising, the gig economy. For us as a CEO, for us as the management of a company, if you do not recognize the importance of the rise of the gig economy, you will lose your whole revenue. But if we recognize the importance about the gig economy, we start to being one with the gig economy, then we are the same members, we are the same peers inside the gig economy. How the gig economy works? How the gig economy works? Majority, as I told you, the majority of the gig economy participant is Generation Z and influencing the generation of post-millennium. What they usually cultivate is under their virtue of mobile phone. The virtue of mobile phone transform their own culture. Maybe the next generation for the parents is much easier to use the IG to communicate with their children more than face-to-face to talk during the mealtime. So, in other words, when we work, when we participate, when we are looking at, we are the same with the gig generations, then we must look at how we can become the same in the market. When we look at slightly divide the market demand of gig economy, we can find that gig economy can be found pure working physical gig economy, online gig economy, and then sharing economy. Well, when we talk about sharing economy, it's already very familiar amongst the post-millennial generations. And then gig economy and online gig economy will be in between Generation Z and post-millennium generations. So when we look at this economy, we will slowly adapt into what their culture is. And maybe we can find that what kind of service gig workers or employees are providing. Surprisingly, 59% are professionals. You cannot deny the truth is the post-millennium age generation is growing. They are demanding new things now. They are conquered about 59% are professionals. Later on will be the skilled labor, and then thirdly will be the less skilled labor. How about the age? When we look at it, this one is 51% of gig economy workers are young millennial and Generation X. Now, certainly the older millennial mix up already is 33%. So that forces us as a Generation X or boomers recognize the market need. You are the same. When we are thinking about you are the same, how can we transform ourselves with the new market demand? Firstly, in Hong Kong, only 48% of CEO of the listed company having heard that digitalized asset can become an alternative way of financing and investing. Even as high-ranking as Hong Kong listed company CEOs, only 48% of people have heard about digitalized asset. Only 48%. So, in other words, if we would like to transform the market, making the new market demand, is how we can educate the market, is how we can transform the market, being the same digital demand as the younger generations. Excuse me. Now, one of the best model or the role model of the teens can be described as their characteristic. I use Australian's William Frankie Muller. He is a very best-known model amongst the IGA and then the YouTubers. They can be characterized as a role of gig workers. One thing, they are very independent. They science know everything. But even though they are independent onto their mobile phone, sometimes for the parents, they will feel, wow, my kid is so isolated from the people. But actually, they are not only playing by themselves onto the mobile phone, but they are looking for their peer recognitions. The peer recognitions is what they are looking for. In other words, how can we generate the market demand through peers recognitions is very important. So that's why nowadays we have what we call it community channel marketer to generate peer recognitions. And how we provide the second point, even though please excuse me, it is in Chinese, but I will translate into English. The second point is every teens will have their own destination design, characteristic design. Even when you look at them, nothing strange, but for them, they are some kind of different with others. For example, they will say from their clothing, some of them will look at the pattern to define their character. So all the people amongst the same pattern will be gathered. So we need to, as a CEO, how can we recognize the individual characteristic or individual pattern to sell our product? Thirdly, even they call themselves, they do not like structure, corporate structure, they do not like social structure, they do not like cultural structure. But actually deep in heart, there are some kind of structure inside them. Whether we can knock on their door, open their door, and walk inside into their structure, that is another difficulties. Fourthly, they would like others to help them. They would like to have all their equipments, accelerators, or tools to help him or her become top of the world. Top of the world, maybe top of the world to dating, maybe top of the world to be key person among friends, or they would like to become a top. So self-recognition about I am the top of the world is very important. So in other words, for us as a marketer, for us as a CEO, how can we transform our business to adapt the teens to become the top of the world? Fifthly, they are very care about the content of the message. They are very care about the content of the picture put on the social media. They are very care about. But even though they do not say a lot of words, but they are care about it. So for us as a CEO, how can we generate sufficient content making arouse their concern? That is very important. Sixthly, how can we chase their peers, among peers, they are chasing each other. Who is the leading role? Leading role, in other words, coming out will be the KOL. The KOL. Through the KOL marketing channel, it will be more efficient than advertising onto the public. So if we targeting onto the new generation, how can we target the new generation? Naively, is how can our product can be differentiate or beautify the teens among their friends. That is another tailor-made program for them. You are the same. Now, when we're talking about being a CEO, how can we transform our company become you are the same if we would like to grab the market of the new market demand? We need to look at the new generation demand. Certainly, when we look at you are the same, when we are looking at you are the same, we are not only talking about the taste and style, but also our organization. How can we retain the talent in our company? Is if we would like to have more talent from younger generation, whether our corporate organization go into digital well enough or not. Next, we are after talking about you are better. Now we are talking after we are talking about you are the same, we are now talking about you are better. You are better is virtualization. Virtualization building up when you see you are better, the words under the you are better. A few Chinese word called based on 5G technology. Based on 5G technology, how can you becoming better is virtualization. For example, as I mentioned, in Hong Kong, only 40% of the CEO acknowledge about digitalized asset. So in Hong Kong, how can we becoming better is whether do you know about the alternative asset financing or investment? Whether you have heard about digital asset can becoming a financing tools or investment tools. Whether you have heard about the business, your business can be linked into blockchain technology. Through the blockchain technology, a lot of accountants, even the Big Four, is investigating those companies running their books under the blockchain. You would be saving around 50% of the working load of external auditing. Then they are thinking about whether offer the discount for those companies is running blockchain technology onto their books, whether they will be putting a good incentive discount to the company to put their books into blockchain. So if we would like to become better, whether you have been thinking about alternative asset financing, whether you have been thinking about digitalizing about your physical asset, whether you have been thinking about your company organization, company operation, whether it is under the link of blockchain or not. And when we are talking about digitalization, virtualization, it is not a new thing. It's all right back to since 2008 till now. Is more than 10 years history. It is not a new thing, but why it is so significant at this moment is after the COVID virus, when the risk occurred about the supply chain management, now getting more people look at digitalization and virtualization. If you are willing to transform your company, become you are better, think about digitalization, think about virtualization, think about link with blockchain technology. Of course, nowadays, more legal requirement, more compliance, more and more regulations on digital securities, blockchains, including custodian agent, fund management. Also, for example, like in Vietnam, they are looking at digitalized, virtualized all the title deed of land and properties in order to check who is the real owner of the properties. Then the final stage will be how to transform oneself from you are the same, you are better, and now you are the only one. You are the only one is those who can look at macro management, look at what? Look at how to base on 5G technology to develop your marketing, to develop your organization, to develop your R&D towards 6G. Even everything is slowly developed. Even slowly developed. But as an interim CEO, how can we help you to virtualization, actualization the situation and become, you can call yourself as you are the only one. One of the way is the blockchain. Now, previously we had talking about the blockchain. The blockchain technology can bring oneself towards the 6G network from virtualization into virtualization actualization. And through the virtualization actualization, our interim CEO program in FTMS can help you to transform your figures, getting improved, growing higher, and most importantly is get to the right situation, the right track towards the people. And overall, after the COVID-19 crisis, after the horrible lockdown, just like the furnace, after the fire of the furnace, it will become a new transformation of new holiness of the new furnace. And hopefully everybody can transform oneself through the fire and transform oneself, purify oneself into the new market. No more to look at the supply side, but look at the demand side, especially how to grab the generation Z, how to grab the generation Alpha.